The morning sunlight slid across the marble floor of the Caldwell estate, touching the silver frames and tall glass windows that had never known the sound of a child's laughter. The house was beautiful, but it was silent, and in that silence lived a girl named Lily. She was 8 years old, born without a voice, her words locked behind her lips since the day she entered the world. Her father, Benjamin Caldwell, a billionaire who built skyscrapers and shaped cities, could not build a bridge to his own child. Every morning she sat by the window of her room, tracing letters in the condensation on the glass, watching birds sing the songs she could never make. That was where the new maid found her. The woman's name was Anna, a soft-eyed woman with skin the color of roasted chestnuts and a voice that hummed like sunlight through old wood. She had come from the South, where people still spoke with warmth in their tone and called strangers child with care. When she saw the girl by the window, Anna did not speak right away. She only hummed, a low tune that sounded like the lullaby of a church without a roof. Lily turned her head slightly, her eyes wide with curiosity. No one ever filled the house with sound before. Anna smiled and kept humming as she dusted the shelves, the sound moving through the air like something alive. Lily watched her hands, how they moved in rhythm with the melody. Without words, she began tapping her finger on the window in time with the beat. Tap, tap, pause, tap. It was the first answer anyone had ever given Anna in that house. The girl's father was in his office downstairs, his voice sharp on a conference call, unaware that upstairs, something impossible was beginning. When Anna finished her work, she bent down and picked up a small wooden spoon from her cleaning cart. She tapped it gently against a metal tray. The note rang out like a bell. Lily's eyes followed the sound. Anna smiled again and tapped twice, slow and sure. Lily raised her hand and did the same against the glass. 2 taps. The maid whispered softly, "That is good, baby." Lily did not hear the words, but she saw the kindness in the woman's eyes, and that was enough. The next morning, when Anna returned, Lily was waiting at the window again, a plastic cup in her hand. She struck it gently, imitating the rhythm from the day before. Anna laughed softly, the kind of laugh that carried warmth instead of noise. In that instant, the quiet mansion no longer felt empty. The air carried something fragile but alive. Downstairs, Benjamin paused mid-sentence on his call, sensing a faint vibration through the floorboards, a sound he had not heard in years. He looked up toward the ceiling and frowned. It was faint, almost like a heartbeat, but upstairs, in the golden light of morning, a small girl was learning that silence could also sing. And the woman who hummed had no idea she was about to change everything. The following morning arrived with a drizzle that painted the glass in soft gray streaks. Anna entered the Caldwell mansion carrying her cleaning supplies and a small thermos of tea wrapped in a towel. The marble halls echoed as always, but the silence no longer felt so heavy. Upstairs, in the room filled with light, Lily sat near the same window with her cup and metal tray, waiting. When Anna stepped in, the girl lifted her hand in greeting, a gesture small but brave. Anna smiled, setting her things aside. "Good morning, little one," she said gently. Even though she knew Lily could not hear her, she made the words clear with her lips, exaggerating the motion. Lily watched closely, then nodded. Anna pressed a hand to her chest and said slowly, "Anna." She pointed at herself. Then she pointed at Lily, raising her brows. Lily hesitated before pointing at her own chest. "Lily," she mouthed without sound. It was the first time anyone had said her name in months, even if it was only through air. That tiny exchange became the bridge between 2 worlds that had never touched before. While Anna worked, Lily followed her, mimicking the gentle rhythm of the cloth moving over wood, the way Anna hummed while sweeping. Every motion was music to her eyes. When Anna took a short break, she placed 2 spoons on the tray, one for herself and one for Lily. They tapped together, the sound like rain on glass. 2 notes became 4, then 6. Lily's small hands trembled with delight. Anna laughed softly and tapped back. The pattern grew into a kind of conversation only they understood. Downstairs, Benjamin Caldwell finished his morning call and stood at the base of the grand staircase. He heard the faint metallic rhythm again and frowned. "What is that noise?" he muttered. His assistant said it must be the staff. He nodded, though something about it pulled at him. For years he had tried to fill the house with tutors, doctors, and therapists, all promising breakthroughs that never came. They treated Lily like a puzzle, a file to be solved, not a child to be seen. Yet upstairs, a woman armed with nothing but patience and kindness was succeeding where specialists failed. That afternoon, Anna went to the kitchen for supplies. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Gale, a sharp woman with a voice like cold steel, stopped her. "The master does not like noise in this house," she said, glancing upward. "Keep your singing to yourself." Anna lowered her eyes respectfully. "Yes, ma'am," she said. But when she returned to Lily's room, she found the girl waiting with a drawing. On a sheet of paper, Lily had drawn two figures, one tall with curly hair and one small by a window, both surrounded by musical notes. Anna pressed a hand to her chest, tears pricking at her eyes. "That is beautiful," she whispered. Lily pointed to one of the notes and then to her own heart. Anna understood. The sound was not about music. It was about being heard without words. That night, Benjamin passed by Lily's room. Through the half-open door, he saw the two of them sitting on the rug. Anna tapped the spoon once. Lily tapped twice. Both smiled. Something inside him ached. He stepped back before they noticed, standing in the hallway where portraits of his ancestors stared down at him, all silent, all proud. He realized he had built a world that worshipped silence and called it success. The next day, he mentioned it to Mrs. Gale. "Who is that new maid?" he asked. "Anna, sir," she replied. "She is from Georgia, a quiet one, though she hums sometimes. Tell her not to disrupt Lily's routine," he said quickly, though the memory of his daughter's smile haunted him. Upstairs, Anna was teaching Lily something new. She drew shapes in the air with her fingers, slowly forming letters. Lily followed, her movements careful. Together they spelled simple words like sun, home, and love. The process was clumsy but alive. When Lily managed to form the letter A correctly, she looked at Anna with shining eyes. Anna clapped softly and nodded. "Yes, that is it. A for Anna, A for always." Lily laughed silently, a soundless joy that filled the room more completely than any melody. Later that evening, Benjamin returned early from a meeting. He walked past the study and heard the faint rhythm again. This time, curiosity got the better of him. He followed the sound upstairs. Standing outside Lily's door, he saw her pressing her palm to the tray, matching Anna's rhythm perfectly. For the first time in years, his daughter's eyes sparkled with something more than sadness. He felt his throat tighten, an emotion he did not recognize. He turned away quietly, afraid to interrupt whatever miracle was happening inside. In the following days, the bond between Lily and Anna deepened. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness now carried traces of life, faint laughter, the rustle of paper, the clinking of spoons. Even Mrs. Gale began to soften, leaving small treats outside Lily's room. Anna noticed but said nothing. She simply kept showing up every morning, humming the same tune that had started it all. Lily waited for her now, holding her cup, ready to learn more. Each day they added something, a new sound, a new word, a new reason to believe that silence was not the same as loneliness. The house did not change overnight, but the light did. It grew warmer, brighter, and more forgiving. And though Benjamin did not yet understand it, he was no longer the only one trying to give his daughter a voice. Someone else already had. In that vast mansion of marble and glass, two souls, one silent, one singing, were quietly rewriting what love sounded like. The rain had stopped by the time dawn rolled across the Caldwell estate, washing the world in a soft golden light. Anna arrived earlier than usual, her steps quiet on the marble floor. She carried a small wooden box under her arm, something she had borrowed from a church thrift store the night before. Inside were a few picture cards, some alphabet tiles, and a small harmonica with a crack on one side. She had cleaned and polished it until it gleamed. When she entered Lily's room, the girl was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the rug, waiting. Her tray and cup were beside her, the silent instruments of their morning ritual. Anna smiled and placed the box down carefully. "Today," she said slowly, mouthing each word, "we are going to talk in colors." Lily tilted her head, intrigued. Anna opened the box and spread the cards on the rug. Each card showed something bright and familiar: sun, apple, water, sky. She pointed to one and said the word aloud, then pointed to her lips, inviting Lily to watch. Lily's eyes followed every motion. When Anna said blue, she shaped the word slowly. Lily pressed her fingers to her throat, feeling for sound. Nothing came, but Anna nodded anyway, smiling. "That is right," she whispered. "You do not have to speak to be heard." They moved through the cards together, building a rhythm like a soft melody. Every gesture, every look became part of their language. When they reached the harmonica, Anna lifted it and blew a single note. It was clear and low, floating through the air like a beam of light. Lily's eyes widened. Anna placed it in her hands. "Go on," she mouthed. Lily hesitated, then took a small breath and blew. The sound that came out was faint, uneven, but real. For a moment both froze, then Anna's eyes filled with tears. She clapped her hands softly, her face shining. Lily laughed without sound, her whole body trembling with joy. That sound, fragile and pure, drifted through the hall and down the stairs. Benjamin Caldwell, standing by his study window, paused mid-call again. He heard it music, real and alive, and his heart skipped a beat. He set the phone down slowly and stepped into the hallway. The melody floated faintly from upstairs, a sound his home had never known. He followed it like a man tracing a memory he did not understand. When he reached the landing, he stopped outside Lily's door. Through the crack he saw her sitting cross-legged, the harmonica pressed to her lips, Anna beside her keeping rhythm with gentle claps. Lily's face glowed with pride, her eyes bright as sunrise. Benjamin felt something pull at his chest, sharp and unfamiliar. He took one step closer, then stopped when Anna turned slightly and saw him. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Anna nodded politely, then turned back to Lily without missing a beat. She wanted him to see, not disturb. For a long moment he stood there, his polished shoes catching the sunlight, his mind torn between disbelief and gratitude. He quietly stepped back and let the door close on its own. That afternoon, when the staff gathered in the kitchen, whispers spread quickly. "Did you hear? The little miss made a sound," one maid said. "A sound?" Another replied in awe. "Yes, the new maid, Anna, was with her. Some kind of music lesson." Mrs. Gale pursed her lips, not pleased. "The master will not like his staff playing instruments on the clock," she warned. But deep down, even she looked a little softer. That evening, Benjamin appeared at dinner. Lily sat across the table, her fork still in her hand. For years their meals had been quiet, an exchange of glances and gestures, nothing more. But tonight he tried something different. He leaned forward and said slowly, "Music." Then he tapped the table gently, mimicking her rhythm from upstairs. Lily's eyes widened. She smiled and tapped back. That single exchange carried more weight than 100 conversations. Anna, standing discreetly by the doorway, saw it and felt her heart swell. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, Benjamin stopped Anna in the hallway. "That sound," he began quietly, "was it real?" Anna nodded. "Yes, sir. She made it herself. Just a breath, but it was hers." He exhaled, looking at the floor. "The doctors said she would never." He trailed off. "She found another way," Anna said gently. "Sometimes silence needs a song to find its way out." He looked up at her, eyes tired but softer than before. "Keep doing what you are doing," he said finally. "Whatever you are teaching her, it is working." Anna nodded, grateful. When he walked away, she whispered to herself, "She is teaching me too." The following days became a bloom of color and sound. Lily practiced with her harmonica every morning. Some days the notes came clear, other days only air, but each attempt filled the room with life. Anna began introducing new games, matching sounds to objects, drawing letters in sand, building stories with pictures. Every gesture drew Lily closer to a world that had once seemed locked away. The staff noticed. Even the marble halls, once cold and echoing, seemed warmer. Benjamin started ending his meetings earlier, lingering outside Lily's door to listen. The harmonica notes were uneven, imperfect. But to him they were the most beautiful music he had ever heard, and though he still could not bring himself to enter, he stayed long enough to hear the end of each song, long enough to remember that miracles sometimes begin not with noise, but with the courage to break the silence. 1 week passed before the peace inside the Caldwell mansion began to stir. The sound of the small harmonica had become part of the home's heartbeat, echoing softly through the marble halls every morning. For the first time in years, sunlight and music coexisted in that quiet house, yet not everyone approved. One late afternoon, as Anna walked down the corridor carrying Lily's lesson cards, Mrs. Gale stood waiting near the staircase, arms crossed. "The master has a meeting with the speech therapist tomorrow," she said curtly. "He wants Lily to follow her program, not whatever game you are playing." Anna nodded politely, though a faint worry crept across her face. "I understand," she replied. When she entered Lily's room, the girl was drawing on the floor with colored pencils, her harmonica nearby. Anna knelt beside her, smiling softly. "Big day tomorrow," she said slowly, mouthing the words. Lily looked up, sensing something was wrong. Anna brushed a strand of hair from the child's face and whispered, "Just keep being brave." The next morning, a woman named Dr. Farrow arrived. Her heels clicking across the marble like a metronome. She was elegant and clinical, carrying a clipboard instead of warmth. Benjamin greeted her in his office, explaining how the new maid had helped Lily express herself. "Doctor," Farrow smiled politely but skeptically. "It is good that she has made progress," she said, "but we must return to structured exercises. Too much emotional reinforcement can create dependency." Benjamin nodded, unsure but trusting the professional. Upstairs, Lily waited by the window, her harmonica in her lap. When Anna entered, she saw the doctor behind her, assessing every detail of the room. "Good morning, Lily," the doctor said in a practiced tone. "Let us try the speech exercises I gave you last month." She placed flashcards on the table and gestured. "Say ah, say oh." Lily stared, silent. Anna stood aside, watching. The girl's fingers twitched toward the harmonica, but the doctor stopped her. "No instruments," she said sharply. "We need her to focus on verbal imitation." Lily looked down, her small shoulders tightening. Anna bit her lip but said nothing. The doctor repeated the commands, louder this time, as if volume could replace understanding. Benjamin stepped in, concern furrowing his brow. "Maybe she needs time," he offered. Dr. Farrow shook her head. "She is resistant. Children often regress when routines are disrupted." Her eyes flicked toward Anna, cold and clinical. "Perhaps the staff should not interfere with therapy." The room grew tense. Anna bowed her head slightly. "I only wanted to help," she said softly. "Sometimes she responds better when she feels safe." The doctor gathered her materials. "Safety is important, but structure builds progress," she replied, her voice tight. When she left, Benjamin lingered by the doorway, guilt pressing against his chest. Anna turned to Lily, who sat motionless, her eyes glassy. Slowly, Anna knelt and touched her hand. "You did nothing wrong," she mouthed. The girl blinked back tears and pointed to the harmonica. Anna smiled faintly. "Go ahead," she whispered. Lily raised it to her lips and blew a trembling note, soft as breath. It wavered, uncertain, but real. The sound filled the air like a fragile promise. Benjamin closed his eyes. He remembered the first day she had laughed, the first spark that had broken years of silence. Something inside him shifted. That evening, after the staff had gone, he found Anna in the kitchen washing dishes. "You were right," he said quietly. She turned, startled. "About what, sir?" He leaned against the counter, his posture less guarded. "She needs to feel safe before she can try. I saw that today." Anna nodded, drying her hands. "Children always learn from love first," she said. "Everything else comes later." He looked thoughtful. "The doctor will be back next week," he said after a pause. "Keep doing what you are doing until then." When he left, Anna stood for a long moment, her reflection in the window merging with the city lights outside. That night, as rain began again, Lily waited in bed clutching her harmonica. Anna sat beside her, reading softly from a picture book, tracing words with her fingers so Lily could follow. When she reached the final line, she looked at the girl and smiled. "You have music in your heart, little one. The world just has to listen." Lily pressed her hand to Anna's cheek in silent thanks. Down the hall, Benjamin paused by the doorway, watching unseen. The sight of them bathed in lamplight struck something deep within him. He had spent his life chasing profits and towers, believing control was the same as care. But watching them, he realized healing was not built, it was given, one gentle note at a time. Later that night, he opened a box in his study and pulled out an old photo of his late wife holding baby Lily. The baby's eyes were closed, her mouth open as if mid-laugh. He whispered, "She is laughing again, Mary." The wind outside seemed to answer. Upstairs, Anna's lullaby hummed softly through the corridor. The house that once feared noise now breathed with quiet joy. And though the morning would bring more questions, for that moment, love had found its rhythm again. The next morning, the air inside the Caldwell mansion felt different, lighter somehow, as if the walls themselves had been listening to the soft sounds that had begun to fill their silence. Benjamin left early for a meeting, but before stepping into his car, he paused at the bottom of the staircase. He could hear faint tapping from above, 2 gentle beats followed by a pause. It was the rhythm his daughter and Anna shared. For the first time in years, he smiled without forcing it. Upstairs, Anna had arranged a small corner of Lily's room into what she called their music garden. It was nothing fancy, just a few makeshift instruments, a tray of alphabet cards, and a small vase of fresh daisies she had picked on her way in. The morning light spread across the floor, reflecting off the polished tiles like rippling water. Lily sat cross-legged, waiting. She wore a yellow ribbon in her hair that matched the flowers. When Anna entered, the girl clapped twice, a silent greeting full of joy. Anna laughed softly and signed, "Good morning, sunshine." Lily pointed to the harmonica resting on the table, then at the alphabet cards. She wanted to learn a new sound. Anna nodded, impressed. She picked up a card with the letter B. "B is for breath," she mouthed slowly. She pressed her lips together and released a short, rounded exhale. Lily mimicked her, pressing her fingers against her throat, feeling the movement inside. Nothing came out, but her eyes glowed with focus. "Perfect," Anna whispered. They continued practicing, mixing letters with sounds, shapes with rhythms, each repetition forming a melody of patience. After a while, Anna paused and reached for the wooden spoon. She tapped it once against the metal tray, then looked at Lily. "Your turn." The girl tapped back with perfect timing. They smiled at each other, 2 hearts beating in unison. That afternoon, Benjamin returned home earlier than expected. As he stepped inside, the faint sound of laughter, soundless but real, floated down the staircase. He followed it to Lily's room. Through the doorway, he saw something extraordinary. Lily stood near the window, holding a small piece of paper with shaky handwriting. The word "Papa" was written in uneven letters. Anna stood behind her, hands clasped, eyes shining. Benjamin froze. The word hit him harder than any speech could have. Lily turned and saw him, her face lighting up. She ran to him, holding out the paper like a treasure. He knelt, taking it in trembling hands. "You wrote this?" he asked softly. She nodded eagerly. His throat tightened. He looked at Anna, who nodded once. "She wanted to surprise you," Anna said gently. Benjamin pulled Lily into his arms, tears blurring his vision. For a long time he just held her, feeling the warmth of her small frame against his chest. When he finally looked up, he saw the wooden tray, the letters, the harmonica, all the tools of a quiet miracle. "Thank you," he said to Anna, his voice rough with emotion. "You have given her something no doctor ever could." Anna smiled humbly. "She did it herself," she said. "I only helped her listen to her own heart." That evening, the mansion seemed alive. The servants whispered with awe, and even Mrs. Gale softened her tone. The chef prepared Lily's favorite soup, and Benjamin ordered extra flowers for her room. After dinner, Anna and Lily sat together under the lamplight. The girl tapped her tray twice, a question they both understood. "What now?" it meant. Anna smiled. "Now we make a song," she mouthed. She picked up the harmonica and blew a few notes. Lily joined in with her spoon, tapping gently. The rhythm was clumsy but beautiful, like 2 languages meeting for the first time. When they finished, Lily took Anna's hand and pointed to the daisies. Anna understood and placed one of the flowers in the girl's hair. "That is for courage," she whispered. Downstairs, Benjamin stood in the hallway listening. The faint melody drifted through the air, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. He remembered his wife again, the way she used to hum lullabies when Lily was a baby. That same softness now lived inside his home once more. Later that night, as the house quieted, he found himself in his study, staring at the photo of his family. He whispered, "She is speaking again, Mary, not with words, but with love." The next day, he surprised Anna and Lily by visiting their music garden. He brought a small keyboard, a gift from his office. "I used to play when I was young," he said awkwardly. Anna smiled. "Then you should play again." He sat down, pressing one key gently. The note filled the room, rich and steady. Lily's eyes widened. She reached out and touched his hand on the key, then pressed her own beside his. Together they played two notes that blended perfectly. It was the simplest harmony, but it made Benjamin's heart ache in the best way. Anna watched quietly, her hands folded. She knew that moment was worth more than any salary. From that day forward, music became a new ritual in the Caldwell home. Every evening after work, Benjamin joined Lily and Anna for 15 minutes of sound and silence. They called it talking without words. And though Lily still could not speak, she no longer needed to. Her laughter, her writing, her music, all of it spoke louder than any voice ever could. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness now glowed with light and love, and for the first time since his wife's passing, Benjamin Caldwell no longer felt like the richest man alone in the world. The week that followed was filled with small miracles. Every morning, the mansion came alive with the soft melody of keys, spoons, and Lily's laughter that had no sound but carried more joy than any voice could. Benjamin seemed lighter, often lingering by the window before work, tapping a quiet rhythm on the glass, as if to say goodbye in their secret language. Anna felt a peace she had not known in years, the kind that comes from being exactly where one is meant to be. Yet change has a way of creeping in quietly, just when everything seems perfect. One Friday afternoon, as Anna was folding laundry in the staff quarters, Mrs. Gale entered with a folded newspaper and a nervous look. "The doctor is coming back," she said flatly, "and she is bringing someone from the hospital board. Apparently, they want to review Lily's progress." Anna froze mid-fold. "Review?" she asked carefully. Mrs. Gale nodded. "They say the therapy should follow official protocols. They do not approve of music lessons." Her tone softened. "You should be careful, Anna. The master may have a good heart, but the world likes rules." That evening, Anna sat by the window in her small apartment, staring at the city lights. She thought about Lily's face, the pride in her eyes when she wrote her first word. The idea of being taken away from her felt unbearable. But she also knew the doctor had authority and influence. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured herself a cup of tea. "You will be all right, baby," she whispered to the air, imagining Lily asleep under her blanket of daisies. The next morning, the house was busier than usual. Fresh flowers filled the foyer, and Mrs. Gale hurried around instructing staff to make everything spotless. Benjamin seemed distracted, checking his watch repeatedly. When Anna arrived, Lily ran to her immediately, holding her new drawing, 3 figures holding hands under a sky full of music notes. The image made Anna's chest tighten with both joy and fear. Around mid-morning, Dr. Farrow arrived with a tall man in a gray suit, her expression sharp as ever. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," she greeted. "This is Mr. Preston from the board. He will observe today's session." Benjamin welcomed them politely, though unease flickered in his eyes. Upstairs, Lily was waiting with her harmonica, excited for her lesson. When Anna and the visitors entered, the girl waved shyly. "Doctor," Farrow smiled, stiff and practiced. "Let us see how she has improved," she said. "Go ahead, Lily. Show us what you can do." Lily looked to Anna for reassurance. Anna nodded and signed softly. "You can do it." Lily lifted the harmonica and played a short tune, hesitant but beautiful. The notes trembled like the first petals of spring, uncertain but full of life. Mr. Preston raised an eyebrow. "That is impressive," he said quietly. Dr. Farrow adjusted her glasses. "It is charming, yes, but it does not align with her speech objectives. Music is not speech." She turned to Anna. "Miss Williams, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you are not a certified therapist. You may be confusing emotional engagement with progress." The words stung, but Anna remained calm. "With respect, ma'am," she said slowly. "This is not confusion. This is communication. She is expressing herself." Dr. Farrow frowned. "That is not for you to decide." The tension in the room grew heavy. Lily looked between them, sensing something wrong. Benjamin, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Doctor," he said firmly, "my daughter has not smiled like this in years. I will take joy over protocol any day." The doctor blinked, taken aback. Mr. Preston cleared his throat. "Perhaps a balance could be struck," he suggested diplomatically. "Maybe we combine both approaches." Dr. Farrow's lips thinned, but she nodded. "Very well. We will revisit next week." When they left, the air seemed to deflate. Anna turned to Benjamin, her voice quiet. "They will not stop, sir. They will keep pushing." He sighed deeply. "Let them push," he said. "We will stand." But later that evening, when Anna went to check on Lily, she found the girl sitting on the bed with her harmonica in her lap, her eyes downcast. "What is wrong, sweetheart?" Anna asked gently. Lily pointed to the door, then made a motion with her hands, two people leaving. "You think I will go?" Anna asked softly. The girl nodded, her eyes wet. Anna sat beside her and took her hand. "I am not going anywhere," she said, mouthing the words clearly. "No matter what they say." Lily blinked, then reached out and pressed her harmonica into Anna's hands. She wanted her to keep it safe. Anna smiled through her own tears. "All right, I will hold it for you. But you will play it again tomorrow, I promise." That night, Anna could not sleep. She kept hearing the echo of the doctor's words, the way Lily's face had fallen. Near midnight, her phone buzzed a message from Mrs. Gale. "There is talk of the doctor requesting your suspension until the review is complete. I thought you should know." Anna stared at the screen, her heart sinking. She set the phone aside and whispered to the empty room. "Let them take the job if they must. But they will never take what she learned." Across the city, in the darkened mansion, Benjamin stood by his daughter's door, watching her sleep. On the nightstand beside her lay a single daisy and the alphabet cards they had used to spell the word Papa. He reached down and touched the card lightly, his eyes heavy with resolve. He whispered, "No one is taking her hope away. Not again." The wind outside rose softly, carrying the faintest sound, a single note from a harmonica that had not been played but still remembered. The next few days unfolded in a strange quiet. The mansion that had once echoed with the rhythm of spoons and harmonica notes now felt still again, as if it were holding its breath. The news about Anna's possible suspension had spread among the staff, carried in whispers through the hallways. Mrs. Gale walked softer. The chef avoided small talk, and even the sunlight seemed to hesitate at the windows. Lily felt the change first. Each morning she sat at the edge of her bed, waiting for Anna's humming to float through the door. But on Monday, the sound never came. Her father told her that Anna would not be coming for a while, that it was only temporary, but the girl's wide eyes did not believe him. She had already known before he said it. She could feel it in the way the house had gone quiet. Benjamin tried to keep things normal. He brought her breakfast himself and sat by her side while she played with her alphabet cards, but the magic was gone. The cards were just paper now. At night, she clutched her harmonica, the one Anna had given back before leaving. She held it close but could not play. Her world had shrunk again to the size of silence. Across town, Anna sat in a small cafe near the bus station, reading the same page of the newspaper over and over. Her hands were restless, tracing the rim of her coffee cup. She had not slept much. The letter of suspension sat folded in her purse like a stone. It said she was to stay away from the Caldwell residence until the review was completed. She had cried when she first read it, but now her eyes were dry. She missed Lily more than she could say. Every sound around her, a child laughing, a spoon tapping against a mug, reminded her of the girl. She thought about finding another job, but her heart refused. "I cannot leave her halfway through her song," she whispered. That night, a storm rolled over the city. Rain pounded against the mansion windows, and thunder rumbled across the sky. Benjamin sat in his study, staring at the fire. Papers were scattered across his desk, reports and letters from the board. They wanted control, documentation, structure. None of it mattered compared to the look in his daughter's eyes. He had seen her lose hope once before, after her mother's passing. He would not let it happen again. He rose from his chair and walked upstairs to check on her. When he opened her door, he found her sitting by the window, her harmonica pressed to her lips. She was not playing, only holding it there as if waiting for a miracle. Her eyes shimmered with tears she would not let fall. "Lily," he said softly, kneeling beside her. She turned toward him, her small hands trembling. He reached for her and pulled her into his arms. "I know," he whispered. "You miss her." She nodded against his shoulder. "She will come back," he promised, though he was not sure how. That night he made a decision. The next morning he canceled his meetings, called his driver, and left the house before dawn. He drove through the wet streets until he reached the neighborhood where Anna lived. When she opened the door, she looked startled to see him standing there in the gray light of morning, his expensive coat soaked from the rain. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, unsure. "Sir, you should not," he interrupted gently. "I cannot explain to my daughter why the only person who helped her is gone because of a rule." Anna lowered her gaze. "They said if I came back, I could lose my job permanently. Then let me be the one to take that risk," he said firmly. "Please, she needs you." Anna hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Let me get my things," she said softly. When they returned to the mansion, the housekeeper gasped, but said nothing. Benjamin walked straight upstairs. He opened Lily's door and stepped aside so Anna could enter first. The girl froze, staring for a heartbeat as if afraid the vision might vanish. Then she dropped her harmonica and ran forward, wrapping her arms around Anna's waist. No words, no sound, just a flood of feeling that filled the air like music. Anna knelt and held her tightly. "I told you I would not leave you," she mouthed. Benjamin stood in the doorway, blinking back tears. "Welcome home," he said quietly. The rest of the day felt like sunlight after a storm. Anna and Lily spent hours in the music garden, cleaning the dust from the table and setting up the alphabet cards again. The rhythm returned: tap, tap, pause, and with it, laughter. The staff watched from the hall, some smiling, some wiping their eyes. Even Mrs. Gale, who rarely showed emotion, whispered, "It is good to hear that sound again." That night, as the sky cleared and the moon rose over the estate, Benjamin sat in his study and wrote a letter to the board. His words were simple but resolute. "My daughter's healing is not a matter of compliance, but of compassion. We will continue her lessons as she chooses." He signed it with his full name and sealed it with the company crest. Upstairs, Anna tucked Lily into bed. The girl pointed to her harmonica on the nightstand, then to her heart. Anna smiled. "Tomorrow," she mouthed. Lily nodded, drifting into sleep. When Anna stepped into the hallway, Benjamin was waiting there. "They may fight this," he said. "Let them," she replied. She already found her voice. Outside, the last drops of rain glistened on the window glass like tiny notes of a song that had just begun again. The next morning broke with soft sunlight slipping through the tall windows of the Caldwell mansion, carrying the smell of wet earth after last night's storm. Lily was the first to wake. She slid quietly out of bed, bare feet touching the cool wooden floor, and tiptoed toward the window. Outside, the garden sparkled with raindrops like 1,000 tiny diamonds. She pressed her palm against the glass and smiled. Anna entered soon after, her voice gentle. "Good morning, my little sunshine," she mouthed, setting down a tray of breakfast. Lily turned and ran to hug her, the kind of hug that carried more words than 1,000 sentences. Anna laughed softly, brushing the girl's hair back from her face. "We have another day to make music," she signed. Downstairs, Benjamin was on the phone with his attorney, his voice steady but firm. "Yes, I understand the board's position," he said, "but the decision is final. Anna stays." The person on the other end began to protest, but Benjamin interrupted. "My daughter spoke through music before she ever could through words. That is all the proof I need." He hung up and exhaled, a weight lifting from his chest. For the first time in years, he felt like a father, not just a provider. When he walked upstairs, he found Anna and Lily sitting on the rug surrounded by paper and crayons. Lily had drawn 3 figures again herself, Anna and Benjamin, but this time the figures were holding a heart between them. Benjamin crouched beside her, touched by the simplicity. "Is that us?" he asked softly. Lily nodded and reached for her harmonica. She played a small tune, only 3 notes, but the meaning was clear. It was her way of saying, family. The sound filled the room with warmth that no fire could create. That afternoon, Benjamin received a call from Dr. Farrow. Her tone was cool but professional. "Mr. Caldwell, I understand you have chosen to continue your independent method," she said. "I must inform you that doing so may void future clinical support." Benjamin smiled faintly. "Then we will heal without it." There was silence on the other end before she finally said, "Very well. I wish your daughter the best." After the call, he stood for a long time by the window, watching the sun chase away the last traces of rain. He felt an unfamiliar peace, a kind of surrender that did not mean defeat but understanding. That evening, something unexpected happened. Lily, who usually went to bed early, refused to sleep. She tugged gently at Anna's hand and pointed toward the grand piano in the downstairs parlor. Anna hesitated. "It is late," she mouthed, but Lily shook her head with determination. They walked downstairs together, their steps light on the marble floor. The moonlight spilled across the piano's surface. Benjamin followed quietly from the hallway, unseen. Lily climbed onto the piano bench and pressed a single key. The sound echoed through the room, deep and resonant. Anna sat beside her and placed her hand on Lily's. Together they played, slow and uncertain at first, then steadier. The melody was simple, a lullaby that Anna had once hummed during cleaning, one that Lily had memorized. It carried through the mansion like a prayer. Benjamin leaned against the doorframe, his eyes glistening. When the song ended, he clapped softly, and Lily turned around, startled. Then she laughed, a soundless laugh, but one that lit her entire face. He walked over, kneeling in front of her. "That was beautiful," he said quietly. "You and Anna made this house come alive again." Lily touched his cheek with her small hand, and for a moment, time stopped. Later that night, when Benjamin tucked her into bed, she took out her notebook and wrote something on a page. She handed it to him. The note said, "I am happy now." His throat tightened as he read the shaky letters. He kissed her forehead gently. "Me too," he whispered. After turning off the light, he lingered by the doorway, watching the faint glow from her night lamp spread across her face. Anna joined him, her voice low. "She has come so far," she said. "Yes," he replied. "And it is because of you." She shook her head. "It is because of love. Children always find their way when they are loved enough to try." He smiled, a quiet gratitude in his eyes. The next morning, the city woke to bright skies. Anna arrived in the kitchen early and baked small biscuits with honey, something Lily had told her she liked. When Lily woke, she ran downstairs to find both Anna and her father waiting at the table, laughing over breakfast. It was such a simple moment, coffee, biscuits, morning light, but for all 3 of them, it felt like the beginning of something new. Later that afternoon, Benjamin suggested a drive to the countryside. "We have been inside too long," he said. The staff packed a picnic, and soon the 3 of them were driving along the winding roads beyond the city. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching the fields stretch wide and green. When they arrived at a quiet meadow, Anna spread out a blanket, and Benjamin unpacked the food. Lily picked wildflowers and placed them in Anna's hair. "Beautiful," Benjamin said softly. The girl smiled, a silent laugh escaping her lips. They stayed there until the sun began to sink behind the hills, the light turning golden. As they packed up to leave, Lily reached for her harmonica and played a small tune, one that sounded like goodbye but also hope. Anna looked at her and nodded. "We will come back here again," she mouthed. Benjamin took Lily's hand and said quietly, "Wherever you play, we will follow." The car ride home was peaceful. The city lights appeared in the distance, like stars that had fallen to earth. In the back seat, Lily fell asleep with her harmonica still in her hand. Anna turned to look at Benjamin and whispered, "She is healing." He nodded, eyes on the road but heart full. "So am I," he said. And outside, the night carried the faint sound of a melody that promised more than words ever could, a song born not from sound, but from love itself. The days after their trip to the countryside passed like soft music. The Caldwell mansion had changed completely. Where silence once ruled, now laughter and light filled every hallway. Lily had begun to grow more confident in her small world of sound and rhythm. Every morning she played her harmonica by the window, and every evening she wrote new words in her notebook, simple words like love, home, and Sunday. Anna continued to teach her patiently, and Benjamin often joined them, sometimes sitting at the piano, sometimes only listening with quiet pride. The three of them had found a rhythm that felt unbreakable, but one Tuesday morning, a sharp knock at the door broke that peace. Mrs. Gale opened it and found a man in a dark coat holding a folder. "Good day," he said briskly. "I am here regarding Miss Williams." Mrs. Gale's face tightened. The man handed her an envelope marked with the seal of the hospital board. Benjamin was in his study when she brought it to him. He read the letter in silence, his jaw tightening with each line. It stated that the review committee had decided to terminate Anna's employment at the Caldwell residence, citing breach of clinical cooperation and unlicensed therapeutic practice. The words felt like cold iron. He rose from his chair, anger flashing through his usually calm face. "Who authorized this?" he demanded. Mrs. Gale's voice shook slightly. It came directly from Dr. Farrow's office. Benjamin crushed the paper in his fist. Upstairs, unaware of what had happened, Anna and Lily were sitting on the floor building words out of alphabet tiles. Lily spelled hope and looked up proudly. Anna smiled, clapping softly. "Perfect," she mouthed. Just then Benjamin entered. His face told her everything before he spoke. "They have done it," he said quietly. "They want you gone." Anna's hands fell still. Lily looked between them, confusion clouding her eyes. "When?" Anna asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Today," he said. The words struck like thunder. Lily reached for Anna's arm, shaking her head frantically. Anna hugged her, pressing her cheek to the girl's hair. "It is all right, sweetheart," she said gently. "I will not be far." But even as she said it, she knew it was not true. The letter demanded immediate compliance, under threat of legal action. Benjamin paced the room, his anger sharp. "They cannot control my home," he muttered. "This is absurd." Anna stood slowly. "Please, do not make it harder for her," she said softly. "She needs calm. She needs safety." Benjamin looked at her helplessly, torn between rage and reason. "Let me drive you," he said finally. "You are not leaving this house like a servant dismissed." Downstairs, the car waited under the bright noon Sunday. The air was heavy, the kind that comes before a storm even when the sky is clear. Lily clung to Anna's hand all the way to the door, refusing to let go. "She will be fine," Anna said, kneeling before her. "Do you remember what we always say?" She tapped her chest gently. "The music stays here." Lily nodded through tears, touching her own chest in return. Then she pulled something from her pocket, the small harmonica, and pressed it into Anna's hands. Anna shook her head. "No, darling, that is yours," Lily insisted, her eyes pleading. Anna finally accepted, closing her fingers around it. "All right," she whispered. "I will keep it safe until you are ready to play again." Benjamin drove her to her neighborhood in silence. When they reached her building, he parked and turned toward her. "I will fight this," he said firmly. "They have no right," Anna smiled sadly. "You are a good man, Benjamin, but sometimes the right thing does not come through fighting. It comes through faith." She opened the door but hesitated. "Take care of her," she said softly. "She believes in you." He nodded, his throat too tight for words. She stepped out and walked toward the small apartment complex, her figure framed by the sunlight. She did not look back until she reached the steps. When she waved, Benjamin lifted his hand in return, the harmonica glinting faintly in hers. That night, the mansion felt hollow again. Lily sat in her bed staring at the empty doorway. The daisies in her vase had begun to wilt. Benjamin came in quietly, holding her notebook. "She will come back," he said gently, sitting beside her, but the girl only shook her head and turned away. For the first time in months, she did not reach for her harmonica. It was gone, and with it, the music. Hours later, long after she had fallen asleep, Benjamin sat alone in his study. Papers were spread across his desk, letters, contracts, and phone numbers. He was searching for any way to bring Anna back legally. The clock ticked loudly. marking every second that felt stolen from them. Finally, he leaned back and stared at the ceiling. "You saved my daughter," he whispered to the empty room. "Now I have to save you." Meanwhile, in her modest apartment, Anna sat by the window holding the harmonica. The city lights flickered like stars beyond the glass. She lifted it to her lips and played a single note, soft, low, and trembling. It carried into the night like a whisper meant for one small girl miles away. At that same moment, Lily stirred in her sleep. Her hand moved toward the empty space where her harmonica used to rest, and a faint smile crossed her face. Somewhere deep in her dreams, she heard it, the sound of a promise that distance could not break. 2 weeks passed before Benjamin finally found her. He had spent every spare moment searching, calling contacts, visiting clinics, even driving through old neighborhoods hoping for a trace of the woman who had changed his daughter's life. Each time he came home to the mansion, the silence felt heavier. Lily no longer played her harmonica. She sat by the window instead, drawing small pictures of daisies and music notes. When he asked her what she wanted for dinner, she wrote only one word in her notebook: Anna. That single word was enough to break his heart each time. On a cold Saturday morning, he drove into the poorer part of the city following a lead from one of his company drivers. The man said he had seen a woman teaching children in an old community center near Riverside Avenue. When Benjamin arrived, the building looked worn but alive. He could hear laughter inside. Through the glass door, he saw a group of children sitting in a circle, clapping and tapping in rhythm while a familiar figure guided them gently. Anna stood in the middle of the room, her hands moving gracefully as she taught them a song. Some of the children were using sign language, others tapping spoons on the floor. It was music without instruments, communication beyond sound. Benjamin watched from the doorway, awe filling his chest. When the class ended, Anna turned and noticed him. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by a cautious smile. "Mr. Caldwell," she said softly, wiping her hands. "What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, his expression raw with gratitude. "I came to bring you home," he said. She shook her head gently. "This is home now. These children need me." He nodded slowly, looking around at the room full of bright faces. "So does Lily," he said after a pause. "She has not spoken, not smiled since you left." Anna's eyes softened. "How is she?" "Lost," he admitted. "She draws your name every day." Anna closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. "I wanted to come back," she said quietly. "But they said if I did, it would cause trouble for you." Benjamin reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "There will be no trouble. I took care of it. You are free to come back if you wish." The board backed off. She stared at him, disbelief slowly turning into relief. "You did that?" He nodded. "I owed you more than words. You gave my daughter hope. The least I could do was give you your dignity." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled faintly. "You always talk like a man who builds skyscrapers straight and strong, but you forget that healing happens at ground level." He chuckled softly. "Maybe it is time I learned." That afternoon, Anna packed a small bag and locked the door to the community center. The children hugged her goodbye, their faces glowing with love. "Will you come back?" one little boy asked. "I will visit," she promised. "Keep making music." When Benjamin drove her back to the mansion, the sky was beginning to darken, and the city lights shimmered like reflections on water. Neither of them spoke much on the ride. The quiet between them was not empty but peaceful. When they arrived at the Caldwell estate, the front door opened before they even reached the steps. Lily stood there in her pajamas, barefoot, her hair messy from sleep. She froze for a second, then ran forward as fast as she could. "Anna," she mouthed, no sound, just pure emotion. Anna dropped her bag and knelt to catch her. The girl crashed into her arms, burying her face against her chest. Tears fell freely, mixing with laughter that needed no sound. Benjamin stood behind them, his eyes glistening. "Welcome home," he said softly. Anna looked up at him, smiling through tears. "It feels like one." Later that evening, the house glowed with a warmth that had been missing since the day she left. Mrs. Gale prepared tea and quietly placed it on the piano before slipping away, pretending not to watch from the hallway. Lily sat on the rug holding her harmonica, While Anna unpacked her bag, she pulled out something wrapped in a cloth and handed it to Lily. "I kept it safe for you," she mouthed. The girl unwrapped it and found the same harmonica she had given away weeks ago. Her eyes filled with tears. She lifted it to her lips and played a soft, trembling note. Anna smiled. "Again," she said. The next note came stronger, clearer. Benjamin leaned against the doorframe, his heart swelling. He whispered, "She is playing again." Anna nodded. She never stopped. She was just waiting for someone to listen. Later that night, as Lily fell asleep clutching her harmonica, Benjamin and Anna stood by the doorway. The moonlight spilled across the floor, bathing the room in silver. "Thank you for bringing her back to me," he said. Anna looked at him quietly. "No," she said gently. "She brought us both back to life." When he left, Anna stayed a little longer, watching Lily's chest rise and fall with steady rhythm. On the nightstand beside the bed lay a fresh daisy in a small glass jar. Anna smiled, whispering into the still air, "Tomorrow, we will make new music." Outside, the wind brushed through the garden, carrying with it the faint echo of a harmonica, soft and certain, filling the world once more with the sound of hope. The next morning arrived like a promise. Golden sunlight streamed through the curtains, spilling across the grand hallway where once there had only been shadow. The Caldwell mansion, once defined by quiet luxury, now hummed with gentle life. In the kitchen, Anna hummed as she prepared breakfast, while Lily sat at the table, carefully spreading jam on her toast. Benjamin entered, his sleeves rolled up, his expression light for the first time in years. "That smells wonderful," he said. Anna smiled. "It tastes even better when you help," she replied. He laughed softly and sat beside his daughter. Lily looked between them, her eyes bright. She picked up a small piece of bread, held it up, and mouthed, "Family." Benjamin froze for a moment before nodding, his throat tight. "Yes," he said, "family." After breakfast, the house filled with soft sounds, music, laughter, footsteps. The servants worked with quieter joy, no longer fearful of breaking silence. Even Mrs. Gale allowed herself a small smile as she passed the open parlor door where Lily and Anna sat at the piano. They were playing together, Anna teaching her how to press the keys gently, letting the notes linger in the air. The melody was, "You Are My Sunshine," a song Anna had loved since childhood. As the notes floated through the room, Benjamin stood in the doorway watching. He had once thought music was noise, a distraction from productivity. Now he realized it was healing disguised as sound. Later that afternoon, Anna decided to take Lily to the garden. The autumn air was cool but pleasant, the kind of crispness that carried the smell of earth and flowers. She spread a blanket under the oak tree, and Lily lay on her stomach drawing with colored pencils. "Draw what you feel," Anna said softly. Lily nodded and began sketching 3 figures again, the same as before, but this time with rays of light shining from above them. When she finished, she turned the paper toward Anna. "Beautiful," Anna mouthed. "That is us, is it not?" Lily nodded, grinning. Just then Benjamin joined them, carrying 3 cups of warm cocoa. "I thought you might need this," he said. Anna accepted hers with a smile. "You read minds now?" "Only hearts," he said, glancing at Lily. She giggled silently, sipping from her cup. For a moment, it felt as if time had stopped the breeze, the golden leaves, the sound of the world breathing gently, but peace, as always, was fragile. That evening, as the sky turned violet and the house settled into quiet, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Gale answered and found a reporter standing outside, holding a camera and a small recorder. "Good evening," the man said politely. "I am looking for Mr. Benjamin Caldwell. I am covering a human interest story on his daughter's recovery." Mrs. Gale frowned. "How did you hear about that?" The reporter smiled knowingly. Someone at the hospital mentioned her progress was unconventional. Before she could respond, Benjamin appeared. "That will be all, Mrs. Gale," he said calmly. Turning to the man, he asked, "Who sent you?" "No one, sir," the reporter replied. "But people are curious. A billionaire's daughter, born mute, suddenly making progress after a new method of care. It is quite a story." Benjamin's eyes hardened slightly. "This is not a story. It is my child's life." The reporter hesitated. Of course, sir, but if you would consider giving a short interview. No, Benjamin said firmly. Please leave my property. The man nodded reluctantly and turned to go, but Benjamin could feel the unease creeping in. News like that never stayed quiet for long. Upstairs, Lily had been watching from the landing, her eyes wide. When Benjamin saw her, he softened his tone immediately. It is all right, sweetheart, he said. Just someone curious. Nothing to worry about. But that night, long after Lily had gone to bed, Benjamin stood by the window in his study, staring at the city lights. He knew the world outside was hungry for stories, and he would have to protect his daughter from becoming one. Anna joined him quietly, carrying 2 cups of tea. He will come back, she said softly. Benjamin nodded. I know. They always do when there is something pure to twist. Then we keep it pure, she said. We keep it between us. He looked at her, gratitude in his eyes. You are her shield, he said. No, she replied gently. We both are. The next morning, Anna found Lily in the kitchen early, tapping a rhythm on the table with her spoon. It was a familiar pattern. 2 beats, pause, 2 beats again. Anna smiled. That means you are happy, she signed. Lily nodded. She pointed toward the window, where sunlight spilled over the garden, and mouthed a single word. Music. Anna's heart swelled. Yes, baby, music. That day, the house felt even more alive. The staff moved quietly but cheerfully, the air thick with warmth and a sense of belonging. Benjamin returned home early and found Anna and Lily in the parlor again, their laughter echoing softly between the walls. He stood there for a long moment, simply watching. In his mind, he whispered a silent prayer thanking whatever grace had brought them to this point. When night came, the family sat together for dinner. No one spoke aloud, but everything important was said in glances and gestures, the tilt of a smile, the warmth of a hand, the rhythm of shared love. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that inside one quiet mansion, a father, a child, and a woman with a heart full of music were rewriting what healing meant. Autumn deepened slowly, wrapping the Caldwell estate in shades of gold and amber. The air grew crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and burning leaves from the nearby hills. Inside the mansion, the rhythm of life had become soft and steady. Morning lessons with Anna, afternoon walks through the garden, and evenings filled with the quiet sound of piano keys. Lily was thriving. Her once hesitant movements had turned confident, her eyes alive with curiosity. Each day she wrote new words in her notebook, words like song, smile, and peace. Benjamin watched her transformation with wonder. Every time she smiled, he felt as though a piece of his broken heart had healed. Yet beneath the peace, there was still something unspoken, an ache that hovered between him and the memories of the past. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Anna found him sitting by the fireplace, a glass of water in his hand, staring into the flames. The firelight reflected in his eyes, flickering with the weight of something heavy. She approached quietly. You have not slept much lately, she said softly. He smiled faintly. You notice everything. She sat in the chair opposite him. That is part of my job. No, he said, his voice low. That is part of who you are. For a moment they sat in silence, the crackle of the fire filling the space between them. Finally, he spoke. When my wife passed away, I thought I had lost everything that made life meaningful. Lily was so small then. She did not cry, not even once at the funeral. I thought it was because she was too young to understand, but maybe, his voice faltered, maybe she was too hurt to find the sound for it. Anna listened quietly, her eyes soft. Pain has its own silence, she said gently. Sometimes it is so deep that words do not fit inside it. He looked up at her, his expression raw. You brought sound back into her world, and mine. She shook her head. No, Benjamin, love did that. I just reminded it how to speak. He studied her for a long moment before nodding. You remind me of her sometimes, he said quietly. My wife. She had your kind of faith in people. Anna smiled sadly. Then she must have been a remarkable woman. She was, he whispered. And losing her taught me how easily we can forget to feel. He set his glass down and leaned back. exhaling slowly. You know, before you came, this house was full of people but empty of life. I thought money could build safety, that control could replace love. But love, his voice trailed off, softer now. Love does not obey control, does it? Anna shook her head. No, it grows where you least expect it. The fire crackled louder, and for a moment, they both watched it without speaking. The warmth reached them quietly, like the memory of something long forgotten. Upstairs, Lily stirred in her sleep. She dreamed of music notes floating in the air like stars, Anna's voice humming softly, her father smiling beside her. The dream felt so real that she woke with tears in her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming sense of peace. The next morning, the three of them had breakfast together in the garden. The trees shimmered in the sunlight, their golden leaves drifting down like soft applause. Benjamin poured coffee while Anna helped Lily spread honey on her toast. The world feels lighter today, Anna said, glancing at the bright sky. Benjamin nodded. Because she is happy, he said, looking at Lily. When she is happy, the whole world feels brighter. Lily looked up at him, her lips curling into a shy smile. She picked up her notebook and wrote 2 words. Thank you. Benjamin's throat tightened. For what? He asked. Lily pointed to him, then to Anna, then to her heart. For love, Anna translated softly. Benjamin blinked back the sudden sting of tears. You never have to thank us for that, he said. Later that afternoon, Anna and Lily spent time at the piano again. This time, Lily led the melody, pressing each key with growing confidence. The song was familiar, You Are My Sunshine. Benjamin stood by the doorway, listening. The sunlight hit the piano's polished surface, scattering tiny reflections around the room. When the song ended, Lily turned and smiled at him, her eyes shining. She is getting stronger, Anna said. Yes, he replied quietly. So am I. That night, after Lily went to bed, Benjamin found Anna standing on the balcony overlooking the garden. The moon was full, washing everything in silver light. You were right, he said softly. She turned to him. About what? About love growing where you least expect it. She smiled gently. It always does. They stood there in comfortable silence, the cool night air brushing past them. Somewhere inside the house, the grandfather clock chimed, marking another hour of a life reclaimed from loneliness. Benjamin looked up at the stars and whispered, Mary would be proud. Anna placed a hand on his arm, her touch light but grounding. She would be proud of both of you, she said. As they stood there beneath the quiet sky, the world felt balanced again between grief and grace, between loss and healing. Down the hall, Lily slept soundly, the harmonica resting beside her pillow. The faintest breeze passed through the room, carrying the scent of daisies and the echo of a lullaby that had no words. The house, once silent and hollow, now breathed with peace, love, and music, the language they had all learned to speak together. Winter crept in quietly, wrapping the Caldwell mansion in frost and stillness. The garden outside had turned pale, its flowers now sleeping beneath a thin layer of snow. Inside, warmth filled every room, not from the fire alone but from the peace that had settled into their lives. Lily had grown stronger, her face brighter, her laughter silent but radiant echoing through the halls. Every morning she practiced her music with Anna, and every evening she shared cocoa with her father, her eyes full of affection. For months, life had been gentle, as if the world had finally forgiven their grief. But peace, like glass, can crack without warning. One cold afternoon, Benjamin came home early from the office, his expression unreadable. He carried a folded newspaper under his arm. The front page held a photograph of Anna smiling, kind-eyed beneath a bold headline that read, "Billionaire's nanny has hidden past." The article was cruel, twisted with half-truths. It spoke of her old neighborhood, of debts she had once helped her family pay, and of a misunderstanding that had caused her brief arrest years before charges that were later cleared but never forgotten. Someone had dug up her past and twisted it into scandal. Benjamin's hands trembled as he read. The journalist had implied she had come to the Caldwell home under false pretenses, that her closeness to the family was inappropriate. It was a lie, every word of it, but lies have a way of spreading faster than truth. When Anna entered the study, She froze at the sight of the newspaper. Her face went pale. "Where did you get that?" she asked quietly. Benjamin's jaw tightened. "It is everywhere," he said. "Online. In print. The board is already calling for a statement." She took the paper from him, scanning it with shaking hands. "They are twisting everything," she whispered. "That was years ago. I was trying to help my brother. He was sick and we had no money." Benjamin closed his eyes. "I know," he said. "I know it is not true, but you also know how people think. They will not care about the truth." Anna swallowed hard. "And Lily? I will not let her see this," he said quickly. "She will not understand." But it was too late. A soft sound came from the doorway. Lily stood there, small and still, holding her sketchbook to her chest. She looked between them, sensing something was wrong. Anna knelt, hiding the newspaper behind her. "It is all right, sweetheart," she said gently. "Everything is fine." Lily shook her head, stepping closer. Her eyes were wet. She pointed at Anna, then to the paper on the floor. Benjamin sighed and tried to speak, but his voice failed him. Anna picked up the newspaper and folded it tightly. "This paper tells stories that are not true," she said softly, making sure Lily could read her lips. "Sometimes people are afraid of kindness, and they hurt it when they do not understand it." Lily's lip trembled. She reached out and took Anna's hand. Benjamin watched them, his chest tight with both pride and pain. He had seen his daughter afraid before, but this was different. This was anger. She wrote something quickly in her notebook and held it up. The words were clear. "She is my friend. They cannot take her." Anna smiled sadly. "No, they cannot." The next day, reporters appeared outside the mansion gates. Cameras flashed through the iron bars. Questions were shouted that Benjamin refused to answer. The story had grown beyond control, fueled by gossip and greed. Even some of his business partners began to call, advising him to distance himself from Anna for the sake of reputation. He ignored them all, but Anna could see the toll it was taking. That evening, she knocked softly on his study door. "You do not need to fight this for me," she said quietly. "They will forget in time." "No," he said, his voice low but firm. "I will not let lies destroy the one person who gave my daughter her life back." Anna hesitated. "Sometimes silence is the louder truth, Benjamin. You taught me that." She smiled faintly and added, "Let me go for a while, until this passes." His eyes darkened. "No," he said again, standing. "You are not running from this house like a criminal." But she shook her head gently. "I am not running. I am protecting her. The world is cruel to those who are different. And if staying brings her pain, I cannot stay." He wanted to argue, but the weight in her words silenced him. That night, Lily refused to sleep. She sat by the window, watching the snow fall. Anna sat beside her, holding her close. "Do you remember what we said about music?" Anna whispered. "That even when you cannot hear it, it is still there?" Lily nodded slowly. "Then remember, this love works the same way. Even when you cannot see me, I am still with you." Lily reached out and placed her hand over Anna's heart. Anna covered it with her own. They stayed like that for a long time, the world outside fading into white. Downstairs, Benjamin stood in the hallway listening to the faint hum of their voices. He clenched his fists, anger and sorrow twisting inside him. Tomorrow, he would face the press. Tomorrow, he would speak the truth. But tonight, all he could do was stand there, powerless against the cruelty of a world that never learned how to recognize kindness when it saw it. Upstairs, as the clock struck midnight, the fire in the hearth flickered low, and the faint melody of a harmonica drifted through the house one last time, carrying with it a quiet promise this is not the end. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, the kind of day where even the light seemed unsure of itself. Reporters still waited at the gate, their voices sharp against the cold air. Inside the mansion, Benjamin stood at the breakfast table staring at the untouched coffee in front of him. He had spent the entire night drafting statements, calling lawyers, and trying to contain a fire that refused to die. Across from him, Lily sat silently, her small hands clutching her harmonica. She had not played since the night before. Anna entered the room quietly, her coat draped over one arm. She looked tired but calm, her eyes filled with the quiet strength Benjamin had come to recognize. You do not have to do this, he said, rising. She smiled faintly. Yes, I do, for her. Lily looked up sharply, sensing what was coming. Anna knelt beside her. Sweetheart, I need to go away for a little while, she said softly, her voice careful and gentle. Lily shook her head hard, tears forming instantly. Anna took her hands. It is not forever. Sometimes when people do not understand, they need time, and we will give them that time. But you must keep playing, all right? Lily's lip trembled. She picked up her notebook and wrote frantically, Stay. Please stay. Anna's heart broke at the sight of the words. She kissed the girl's forehead. If love could build walls, I would never have to leave, she whispered. Benjamin's voice was low. I will go with you. We can leave until it calms down. She looked up at him, shaking her head. You cannot run, Benjamin. If you disappear now, they will say it is true. You have a company, a name, a daughter. You have to stand here and protect what is yours. He clenched his jaw. You are part of what is mine. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Anna looked at him with something between sorrow and gratitude. You will always have my loyalty, she said softly. But this fight is not yours alone to carry. The driver came to the door, waiting silently with her small suitcase. Benjamin turned away, struggling to contain his frustration. Anna hugged Lily one last time, holding her tightly as if trying to memorize the shape of her heartbeat. I will come back when the world is ready to listen, she said. Until then, you keep teaching it how. Lily nodded slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Anna placed something in her hand. It was a small pendant, shaped like a musical note. For courage, she said. Then she stood, nodded once to Benjamin, and walked toward the door. The sound of it closing echoed through the mansion like the last note of a song. For a long time after she left, the house was still. Even the clock seemed quieter. Benjamin went through the day like a man moving underwater. He met with his lawyers, gave statements, and refused interviews. But every time he spoke, he could feel the hollowness behind his words. That night, he found Lily in her room, sitting by the window with her harmonica. It is all right to cry, he said softly, sitting beside her. She shook her head and lifted the harmonica to her lips. The first sound that came out was broken, uneven, trembling like her small hands. Then another note followed, stronger, then another. Slowly, she began to play. The melody was the one Anna had taught her, the same tune they played the first morning they met. Benjamin closed his eyes, the sound piercing him in the best and worst ways. That is beautiful, he whispered. Lily looked at him through her tears and mouthed, for her, the next few days were hard. The story continued to spread, but the tone began to change. People who knew Anna spoke up, sharing stories of her kindness, her volunteer work, her generosity. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Online, strangers began defending her, calling the article unfair. Even a few parents from the community center wrote letters to the editor demanding a retraction. Benjamin watched it all unfold with cautious hope. On the fifth day, the newspaper published a correction, admitting parts of the story were unverified. It was not an apology, but it was enough to start mending the damage. That evening, Benjamin sat with Lily by the fire. Do you know what courage is? He asked her. She looked up and shook her head. It is doing the right thing even when the world makes you afraid, he said. That is what she taught us. Lily nodded and placed her pendant against her heart. She played a short, steady note. It was her answer. As the snow continued to fall outside, the warmth inside the house slowly returned. The servant spoke again. Mrs. Gale smiled more often, and the air no longer felt heavy. Yet every night, Benjamin found himself standing by the window, looking toward the city lights, wondering if Anna was all right. He imagined her somewhere small and quiet, maybe sitting near a window too, thinking of them. In his heart, he knew she would come back, not because the scandal had passed, but because she had promised and Anna never broke her promises. Upstairs, Lily slept with her harmonica beside her pillow. In her dreams, she saw the garden in spring, daisies blooming again, and Anna's voice whispering, "Play, baby. The world needs your song." Weeks passed, and winter began to loosen its grip. The snow melted from the rooftops, and the first buds of spring peeked through the frozen ground. Inside the Caldwell mansion, life had returned to something that looked like peace, though a quiet longing still lingered in every room. Lily had grown taller, her curls brushing her shoulders now. Each morning she practiced the piano faithfully, keeping her promise to Anna. The melody she played most often was the lullaby they had written together, a tune she now called Home. Benjamin often stood in the doorway listening, a faint smile softening his face. It was the same song he had once dismissed as simple, but now it held the whole story of their healing. He would never admit it out loud, but every time Lily played, he felt closer to the woman who had changed everything. One Saturday morning, Benjamin decided they needed a day outdoors. "The sun is finally out," he said, opening the curtains wide. "We should go to the park." Lily's face lit up. She wrote quickly in her notebook, "Can we bring my harmonica?" "Of course," he said. "Music belongs everywhere." They spent the afternoon in the city park near the river, where children ran with kites and families picnicked under the blossoming trees. Lily sat on a bench, playing a soft tune while birds gathered nearby, tilting their heads as if listening. Benjamin watched her, amazed at how fearless she had become. People stopped to listen, smiling, some even clapping quietly. For a moment, it felt as if the entire world had joined her song. An older woman approached, her coat buttoned up to her neck. "That little girl has a gift," she said warmly. Benjamin nodded with quiet pride. "She has been through a lot, but she never stopped believing in beauty." The woman smiled knowingly. "That is the kind of strength you cannot teach. It comes from love." Her words echoed in his mind long after she walked away. That evening, as they returned home, Benjamin noticed something strange. A small package sat on the front steps, wrapped in brown paper with no return address. He picked it up carefully and brought it inside. Lily followed curiously, her wide eyes fixed on the mysterious parcel. When he opened it, they found a harmonica inside, polished, new, and shining. Tucked beneath it was a folded piece of paper. In delicate handwriting it said, "Keep making music. It will guide you home." There was no signature, but they both knew who it was from. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She pressed the harmonica to her lips and played a short melody, slow, tender, filled with emotion. Benjamin swallowed hard, his voice breaking as he whispered, "She kept her promise." The days that followed were lighter. The story in the newspapers had faded away completely, replaced by new scandals and fleeting headlines. The world had moved on, but the Caldwell family had not forgotten. Every evening after dinner, Benjamin and Lily sat together at the piano, the new harmonica resting beside them like a silent guest. They played their favorite tunes, sometimes cheerful, sometimes sad, but always filled with the same message: hope never dies, it only waits. One afternoon, Benjamin found Lily in the garden with a handful of daisies. She was arranging them in a glass jar, her expression thoughtful. "Who are those for?" he asked gently. She pointed toward the gate and mouthed, "Anna. She will see them one day," he said softly. Lily nodded and placed the jar by the fence where sunlight touched it just right. That evening, Benjamin received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "Riverside Children's Center." When he opened it, his heart caught. It was a photo Anna surrounded by children, her smile radiant, her hands guiding a small boy's as he held a guitar. The message beneath it said simply, "We are still teaching. She says thank you." Benjamin stared at the screen for a long time, his chest tightening with a mixture of pride and longing. "She is all right," he whispered. When he showed the picture to Lily, the girl clutched the tablet close and kissed the image. She pointed to the words, "Still teaching," and smiled, her eyes shining. "She never stops," Benjamin said, more to himself than to her. "That is who she is." That night, as the moonlight filled the house, Lily sat by her window playing the harmonica. The sound drifted out across the garden, soft and golden, mixing with the rustle of the trees. Benjamin listened from the hallway, his eyes glistening. It was the same melody Anna had once hummed the day she met his daughter, the song that had started everything. As Lily finished the tune, she looked out into the dark, whispering without sound, "Good night, Anna." Somewhere miles away, perhaps near the same river where children laughed, Anna looked up from her lesson as if hearing a familiar echo. A smile spread across her face, gentle and full of peace. "Good night, my little sunshine," she murmured, and though distance lay between them, the connection remained, alive in every note that filled the quiet world with light. Spring deepened into early summer, and the Caldwell mansion once again brimmed with sunlight and laughter. The garden bloomed wildly, the roses climbing along the fences and the air filled with the faint hum of bees. Inside, Lily's laughter, soundless but radiant, seemed to fill every corner. She had grown more confident, more alive, and Benjamin could see in her eyes that she carried Anna's lessons with her everywhere. Each morning, she practiced at the piano, her small hands dancing gracefully across the keys. Her music had become more than sound, it was emotion translated into melody. Benjamin often joined her, his fingers clumsy but eager, learning to match her rhythm. "You are getting better," she wrote in her notebook one morning, and he chuckled softly. "I have the best teacher," he said. But there were still moments when silence returned. Moments when the weight of absence settled quietly in the room. Sometimes, Lily would stop mid-song, looking toward the window as if expecting Anna to appear with that familiar warm smile. And sometimes, Benjamin would find himself at his desk, opening the photograph of Anna's class at the Children's Center, the one she had sent months ago. He would stare at her face, trying to memorize every detail, the curve of her smile, the light in her eyes, and he would whisper, "Thank you," to the still air. One morning, a letter arrived addressed to Benjamin Caldwell. The handwriting was neat, the ink slightly smudged as if written in a hurry. It was from Anna. He opened it carefully, his heartbeat quickening. "Dear Benjamin," it began, "I hope this finds you and Lily well. The children here are thriving. Music has become their language of hope, just as it was for Lily. Every time I see them laugh, I think of her. I promised her I would come back, and I intend to keep that promise soon. Until then, tell her to keep playing. The world needs her music." He read the letter twice, then handed it to Lily, who sat beside him with wide eyes. She traced the words slowly, smiling through tears. Then she took her harmonica and played 3 soft notes, their secret rhythm. It was her way of answering, "I heard you." A few days later, Benjamin received a call from the community center. The woman on the line said they were planning a small recital featuring Anna's students, and they wanted to invite the Caldwell family as guests of honor. "Anna said she owes you both a song," the woman added with a smile in her voice. Benjamin agreed immediately. On the day of the recital, the sky was clear, the air warm and alive. The community center stood just as he remembered: old bricks, wide windows, and laughter spilling out even before they entered. Inside, the stage was simple, decorated with paper flowers and drawings from the children. Lily sat beside her father, her harmonica in her lap, eyes shining with excitement. When Anna appeared, dressed in soft blue, the room seemed to brighten. She spotted them instantly and froze for a heartbeat, her expression a mix of disbelief and joy. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that carried forgiveness, gratitude, and homecoming all at once. The children performed first, singing, clapping, playing instruments, and the crowd clapped enthusiastically. But it was the final performance that no one would forget. Anna stepped to the microphone and said, "This last piece was written for a little girl who taught me that silence is not the absence of sound, it is the space where love waits to be heard." She turned to Lily and nodded. "Would you join me?" The room fell silent as Lily walked slowly onto the stage, her harmonica trembling slightly in her hands. Anna knelt beside her, whispering, "Just like before, you lead, I follow." Lily nodded and lifted the harmonica to her lips. The first note rang out, pure and steady. Anna followed with soft piano chords, their music weaving together like a heartbeat and a breath. The melody was familiar, it was home, the song Lily had written in the mansion months ago, but now it was fuller, deeper, alive with meaning. The crowd listened, motionless. Benjamin sat in the front row, his chest tight with pride and emotion. When the final note faded, the room erupted in applause. Some were crying, some were smiling, but all were moved. Lily looked at Anna, her small chest rising with emotion, and for the first time in her life, she whispered a single word, barely audible, but real. "Mama." The room froze. Anna's eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks. Benjamin covered his mouth in shock. Lily looked at her again, nodding as if certain this was what her heart had always meant to say. Anna pulled her into her arms, holding her close, her voice trembling. "Yes, baby, I am here." The crowd stood to their feet, clapping louder now, though none of them truly understood what they had just witnessed. But Benjamin knew. His daughter had spoken her first word not from therapy or medicine, but from love. Later, as they stood outside beneath the warm evening sky, Anna wiped her tears and laughed softly. "You said she would find her voice one day," Benjamin whispered. Anna looked at him, her eyes still shining. "I did not give her a voice," she said. "I just reminded her she already had one." The three of them stood together beneath the fading sun, the world around them glowing with quiet magic. For the first time, everything felt whole again. The recital became a story that the community would talk about for months. People said they had witnessed something sacred that night, something that words could never fully describe. For Benjamin, it was the day his daughter was reborn. For Anna, it was the moment she realized that love had the power to rewrite destiny. And for Lily, it was the day she finally believed that silence was never her cage, only her beginning. In the weeks that followed, everything in their world seemed to bloom again. The garden at the Caldwell mansion filled with new life, as daisies and roses swayed in the soft wind. Every morning, Lily's laughter filled the air like sunlight spilling across the marble floors. She began to use her voice little by little, not perfectly, but bravely. Simple words at first: Papa, Anna, music, and home. Each word sounded like a miracle. Anna and Benjamin would exchange quiet glances, their hearts overflowing with gratitude. "She is teaching us now," Anna said one morning as she helped Lily sound out a new word. Benjamin nodded. She has always been the teacher. It was true. The mansion that had once been silent and cold now pulsed with warmth. The servants spoke freely again. The piano was never quiet, and the rhythm of laughter echoed through the hallways. Sometimes, when Benjamin came home late from the office, he would stop outside before entering, listening to the soft sounds of music and giggles coming from the parlor. That sound reminded him that life, no matter how broken, could heal if given enough love. But as peace returned, so did reflection. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Anna stood on the balcony watching the sunset fade into purple and gold. Benjamin joined her, leaning against the railing. "She is unstoppable now," he said with pride. "You gave her that strength." Anna smiled softly. "No, Benjamin. She found it on her own. I just reminded her that she was allowed to shine." He turned to her, studying her face in the dim light. "You have changed everything," he said quietly. "Not just for her, but for me." Anna looked away, her heart pounding softly. "We both changed," she said. "That is what happens when people decide to love instead of fear." The wind carried the faint scent of jasmine from the garden below. The world felt hushed, suspended between past pain and present peace. Benjamin hesitated before speaking again. "When I lost Mary, I thought I would never feel whole again. But when I saw Lily say your name, when I saw her call you Mama, I realized that wholeness does not mean replacing what is gone, it means finding grace in what remains." Anna's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "She will always carry her mother's love inside her," she said, "and maybe that is what brought all of us here." They stood in silence for a long moment, the only sound the whisper of leaves. Down the hall, a faint note from Lily's harmonica drifted through the air, as if to remind them that she was listening even in her dreams. The following morning, they decided to visit the community center again, this time to deliver instruments for the children. Lily insisted on helping, carefully carrying a small box of recorders and tambourines. When they arrived, the children ran to greet Anna, shouting her name. "Miss Anna! Miss Anna!" they cheered. Lily smiled shyly, hiding behind her father's coat. Anna laughed and introduced her. "This is Lily," she said. "She is the one who taught me that music can heal hearts." The children clapped and gathered around, curious and excited. One little girl handed Lily a flower and said, "You helped our teacher smile again." Lily blushed and whispered, "Thank you." It was still soft, but the sound was clear, true, and alive. Anna's eyes glistened. "See?" she whispered to Benjamin. "Every heart she touches, she teaches." They spent the afternoon playing with the children. Benjamin found himself helping a small boy strum a guitar, while Anna showed Lily how to lead a rhythm circle. The air was filled with laughter and sound, the kind of music that came not from instruments but from joy itself. As the day faded, Anna and Benjamin sat on a bench outside the center watching the children wave goodbye. "I think we started something bigger than we realized," he said. "We did not start it," she replied softly. "We just listened to what was already waiting to be heard." When they returned home, Lily ran to the piano before taking off her coat. She sat and played the first few notes of Home. Anna joined her on the bench, and together they filled the house once more with that melody. Benjamin stood nearby, his heart full. As the last note lingered, Lily turned to them both and said, with effort but certainty, "We are family." The words were imperfect, but they carried more beauty than any song. Anna's tears fell silently, her smile trembling. Benjamin reached out and took both their hands. "Yes," he said softly, "we are." Outside, the wind brushed through the blooming garden, scattering petals across the grass. Somewhere far away, the world continued rushing forward, unaware that inside one quiet mansion, a child who was once silent had taught two grown hearts how to speak again. The summer sun painted the Caldwell mansion in gold, and laughter had become a familiar sound again. The air smelled of blooming jasmine and fresh bread from the kitchen. Life moved in rhythm, steady, joyful, and full of meaning. Lily had found her voice, not just through music but through words. Though her speech was still soft and careful, every sound she made carried pride. Benjamin watched her grow with wonder, often marveling at how courage could live in such a small body. Anna remained by their side, her presence now woven into every corner of their lives. She still taught at the community center a few days each week, but she always returned to the mansion before sunset. Lily would wait for her by the window, harmonica in hand, ready to play their secret rhythm the moment she saw her walking up the drive. One warm evening, Benjamin invited Anna and Lily for dinner under the oak tree in the garden. The table was set with candles, soft lights hanging from the branches above. The setting sun cast an amber glow across the lawn. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily about music, the children at the center, and Lily's latest drawings. "She wants to teach music when she grows up," Anna said with a proud smile. Benjamin looked at his daughter, who nodded shyly. "Then the world will be lucky," he said softly. After dinner, Lily played her harmonica while Anna hummed beside her. The melody was gentle, floating through the evening air like a prayer. Benjamin leaned back, closing his eyes, letting the sound wash over him. When the last note faded, he opened his eyes and said quietly, "I wish Mary could see this." Anna reached across the table and placed her hand on his. "She can," she said. "Every time Lily plays, she listens." The truth of it struck him so deeply that he had to look away for a moment. Later that night, when Lily had gone to bed, Benjamin and Anna stayed outside watching the stars appear one by one. "Do you ever think about what is next?" he asked. Anna smiled gently. "I used to live one day at a time. Now I think about what comes after because you both gave me something I had forgotten: home." He looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then maybe home is not just a place we find. Maybe it is a person." The silence that followed was warm, filled with unspoken understanding. The sound of crickets filled the air, and a soft breeze rustled the leaves. For the first time in a long while, Benjamin felt no weight on his chest, only peace. The following week brought an unexpected letter. It came from a foundation that supported children's arts programs across the country. They had heard about Anna and Lily's recital months ago and wanted to fund a new project in their name, the Caldwell Music Garden, a space where children could learn and heal through sound. Benjamin read the letter aloud at breakfast, his voice trembling slightly. "They want to build it in the city park," he said. "And they want you," he looked at Anna, "to lead it." Anna froze, her eyes wide. "Me?" He nodded. "They saw what you created. They want you to do it again, on a bigger scale." Lily clapped her hands with delight. "Music garden," she said clearly, the words proud and strong. Anna laughed, tears filling her eyes. "Then I suppose we have work to do." Over the next few weeks, their lives became a whirlwind of plans and possibilities. Benjamin offered to fund part of the project. while Anna met with architects and teachers to design a place that would feel alive with sound. Lily insisted on helping too. She drew colorful sketches of flowers, benches, and musical instruments. "It should have daisies everywhere," she said one morning, holding up her drawing. "Daisies make people smile." Anna kissed her forehead. "Then daisies it is." When the groundbreaking ceremony finally arrived, the community gathered in the park. Reporters came too, but this time their questions were kind, filled with admiration instead of suspicion. Benjamin gave a short speech, his voice steady but emotional. "This garden began as a song between a child who could not speak and a woman who refused to stop believing in her. It taught me that sometimes healing does not happen in silence or sound, but in the space where both meet." As he stepped back, Anna took the microphone. "Music saved me long before it saved anyone else," she said. "And now, I hope this place becomes a home for every heart that needs to remember what hope sounds like." The crowd applauded, and Lily, standing between them, beamed brighter than the Sunday. When the ribbon was cut, the first sound to fill the air came from Lily's harmonica. The soft melody floated over the garden as the wind carried the petals of freshly planted daisies across the ground. Anna knelt beside her and whispered, "Your song built this." Lily nodded and played a little louder. Benjamin stood behind them, his heart full, his eyes wet. He looked at the sky, whispering, "Thank you, Mary. She is safe now." That evening, when they returned home, Lily ran ahead to the piano and began to play their song, "Home." Anna joined her, and Benjamin sat quietly, letting the music carry him. As the house filled with sound, he realized that the silence which had once haunted their lives had finally turned into something else, something living, gentle, and eternal. For the first time in years, he knew it would never leave them again. The weeks that followed the opening of the Caldwell Music Garden were filled with movement, light, and laughter. Children from every corner of the city came to play, to sing, and to find pieces of themselves they thought they had lost. The air around the garden seemed to hum with life-tiny hands tapping drums, gentle voices learning to trust their sound again. Lily was at the center of it all, her harmonica hanging from a ribbon around her neck like a symbol of hope. She had become something of a legend in the community, the girl who had once been silent but now taught others how to listen. Anna guided the lessons with her usual warmth, her smile as steady as sunlight. Benjamin often watched from the background, proud and quiet. He had become a part of the project in his own way, helping build programs, fund instruments, and plant more flowers each week. Every time he saw Lily run across the garden, her hair flying, he thought of how far they had come from the cold silence of that mansion to this place of joy. One morning, a teacher from a nearby school brought a group of new children. Among them was a boy named Caleb. He was 10 years old, thin and quiet, with dark eyes that avoided everyone. He reminded Anna too much of the girl she had first met years ago, the one who sat by a window with her silence wrapped around her like armor. During the session, while other children clapped and played, Caleb sat apart, watching but never joining. When class ended, Anna approached him and knelt down so her eyes met his. "Would you like to try?" she asked, holding out a small drum. He shook his head, looking away. "That is all right," she said softly. "You do not have to speak to make music. You just have to feel." She began to tap a soft rhythm on the drum, slow and steady. After a moment, Lily joined in from across the circle, adding a note from her harmonica. The sound was light, gentle, and patient. The boy's fingers twitched. Without thinking, he reached out and tapped once on the side of the drum. Then again, the rhythm grew stronger, weaving between them. Anna smiled, tears stinging her eyes. Benjamin watched from a distance, his chest tight with recognition. It was happening again. The miracle that had once saved his daughter was now saving another child. After class, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Caleb approached Anna. "Can I come back?" he asked quietly. She smiled and nodded. "You already belong here." That night, as they locked up the garden, Benjamin turned to Anna. "Do you see what you have done?" he said softly. "You have turned pain into a place that heals." Anna looked at him, her voice calm. "No, Benjamin. We did. Lily did. Everyone who chooses love over fear builds a place like this, even if it is invisible." He looked at her for a long moment before saying, You have changed what I thought love was." She tilted her head slightly. "And what is it now?" He smiled faintly. "It is music you cannot stop hearing, even when the song is over." The next day, the three of them returned to the mansion after a long day at the garden. Mrs. Gale had prepared dinner, and the smell of roasted vegetables filled the air. As they sat down to eat, Lily suddenly looked up and said clearly, "Can we invite everyone here one day?" Anna smiled. "Everyone?" "Yes," Lily said. "The children, the teachers, even the people from the hospital who said I could not talk." Benjamin laughed. "That would be a full house." "Then we will need more chairs," Lily replied seriously, and they both laughed. After dinner, Benjamin walked out into the garden, the night warm and filled with crickets. Anna joined him, her shawl draped loosely over her shoulders. "She is brave," he said, "braver than we ever were." "Children always are," Anna replied. "They believe before the world teaches them to doubt." They stood in silence for a moment, the stars glimmering above them. "Do you ever think about how it started?" he asked. "That day you found her by the window?" Anna smiled softly. "Every day. It reminds me that even the smallest act of kindness can change everything." He looked at her, his expression tender. "You changed everything." She shook her head. "No, Benjamin, love did. We just followed where it led." Upstairs, through the open window, they could hear Lily playing softly on her harmonica, the tune drifting down like a lullaby. It was not home this time, but something new, a melody they had never heard before. It was softer, slower, full of wonder. "She is writing her own song," Anna whispered. "Yes," Benjamin said, "and I think she always will." They stood there under the stars, listening to the music of the girl who had once been silent. The wind carried the notes across the garden, through the trees, into the night, as if the world itself was pausing to listen. In that moment, Benjamin realized something profound. Silence had not been their enemy, it had been their teacher. It was silence that had taught them to hear, to love, to wait. And now, in the stillness between Lily's notes, he finally understood. The world was not quiet anymore. It was just listening. Years passed, and the Caldwell Music Garden grew into something larger than any of them could have imagined. The small patch of land that had once held a handful of daisies now stretched across acres of color and sound. Children from all backgrounds came to learn, to play, and to heal. Laughter and music echoed through every corner, blending into a song that never seemed to end. Lily, no longer the shy little girl who hid behind her harmonica, had grown into a confident young woman. Her voice, once a whisper of hope, now carried warmth and purpose. She taught the youngest children how to find rhythm in their hearts before they found it in their instruments. Each time she played, she reminded them of a truth she had learned long ago, that silence was never emptiness, only a place waiting for love to speak. Benjamin often watched her from the bench beneath the same oak tree where they had once eaten dinner under the stars. His hair had turned silver, and lines now marked his once youthful face, but his eyes were bright with pride. Every time he heard the sound of laughter, he thought of how far they had come from the cold days of loneliness. Anna still worked beside him, her energy unwavering, her kindness unchanging. Time had softened her but not dimmed her light. She was known now not just as a teacher but as the woman whose compassion had inspired a movement, yet she never took credit. "The garden built itself," she often said. "We just listened to what the world needed." One afternoon, the three of them stood at the entrance of the garden as a new plaque was unveiled. It read, "For those who once lived in silence but dared to sing again." As the crowd clapped, Benjamin felt a hand slip into his Lily's small hand, now grown but still warm and certain. Anna stood on his other side, smiling as the children played the opening notes of Home. The melody carried through the air, soft and golden, like sunlight passing through water. For Benjamin, every note was a memory: the day Lily had first smiled again, the night Anna had defended her with nothing but courage, the moment when silence had broken into song. After the ceremony, when the crowd dispersed, they walked through the garden together. The air was filled with the smell of earth and flowers, and the sound of laughter drifted like wind through leaves. They stopped near the daisies, Lily's daisies, and Benjamin knelt, brushing his fingers against their petals. "Do you remember when you planted these?" he asked. Lily nodded. You said daisies make people smile. They still do, Anna said softly. The three of them stood there quietly, surrounded by the beauty they had built together. After a long pause, Lily looked up at the sky and whispered, I think Mama would like it here. Benjamin swallowed the lump in his throat. She does, he said. She has been here all along. Anna placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice low. Love never leaves, Benjamin. It just changes shape. The setting sun bathed the garden in warm light, and for a moment it seemed as if the world itself was breathing with them. Later that evening, they sat on the porch of the mansion, looking out over the glowing horizon. The house that had once been a place of grief was now filled with laughter, music, and the scent of baked bread. The piano in the parlor had not been silent for years. Do you remember the first day we met? Anna asked quietly. Benjamin chuckled. You mean when you told me off for scaring my own daughter? She laughed, shaking her head. You were impossible. And you were stubborn, he said. Still are. She smiled. It seems to have worked. Lily came out then, carrying her harmonica. Play with me? She asked. Anna nodded, and Benjamin stood, stretching. All right, he said. They began to play together, father, daughter, and the woman who had healed them both. The melody rose into the night, weaving through the soft hum of crickets and the distant rustle of trees. It was home, but slower now, fuller, wiser, the kind of song that held both sorrow and joy, both endings and beginnings. When the last note faded, Lily looked at them and said softly, Thank you. Benjamin smiled. For what? For not giving up, she said. Anna reached out, pulling her into an embrace. Never, she whispered. Not on you. Not on love. The moon climbed higher, casting silver light over the garden. The wind brushed through the daisies, making them sway as if they too were part of the song. For a long time, none of them spoke. There was no need. The music, the laughter, the memories, they said, everything that words could not. And somewhere in that quiet, Benjamin thought he could hear Mary's voice, soft and full of peace, whispering, Well done. He closed his eyes and smiled. The world, once broken and silent, now sang again, and in that song, three hearts beat as one, proof that love, when true, does not end. It only finds new ways to be heard,